Alina Ward lived most of her days in the warm, clattering world of the base kitchen, where steam rose from boiling pots, metal trays echoed on counters, and the smell of fresh bread always lingered in the air. To everyone around her, she was simply the cook. A polite woman with soft eyes, tied-back hair, and sleeves rolled neatly to her elbows. She moved quietly, spoke gently, and never drew attention. SEALs walked past her every morning, loud with jokes and mission stories, barely noticing the woman who handed them their breakfast. But beneath that harmless appearance lived a different Alina, one no one had met, one she had locked away years ago. While she chopped vegetables or arranged meal trays, her mind worked differently. She never entered a room without checking the corners. She counted exits without meaning to. She remembered faces, footsteps, patterns. These habits were old scars from a life she had buried. New recruits sometimes joked about her being small or too quiet. She only smiled and kept working, never reacting, never revealing the storm she carried. But late at night, when the kitchen turned silent and the lights dimmed, she sometimes stood alone, staring at her reflection in the steel counters, wondering how long she could keep pretending. Despite her best efforts, traces of her past slipped through. The way she stopped a falling tray with lightning reflexes. The way she sensed a soldier sneaking up behind her before he spoke. Or the way her eyes hardened whenever she heard the word operation. Alina wanted peace. She wanted a simple life washing dishes and feeding tired soldiers. But destiny often hides inside silence. And deep within her calm, the warrior still waited, breathing quietly, watching everything. The base was unusually calm that afternoon, until a sudden alarm shattered the quiet. Radios crackled, officers rushed across hallways, and within minutes the news spread like lightning. SEAL Team Echo was missing. Their mission feed went dark mid-operation, all trackers cut at the exact same second. That kind of disappearance didn't happen by accident. It meant one thing, a trap executed with precision. Alina was carrying a tray of fresh bread when she heard two officers whispering. Their faces were pale, their voices shaking. They said the team was surrounded, outnumbered, and possibly taken alive for interrogation. A fate worse than death for SEALs. Soldiers gathered in clusters, murmuring theories. Analysts blamed equipment malfunction. Commanders argued over protocols. Reinforcements required hours the captured team didn't have. Alina stayed at the edge of the room, listening. She didn't react, but something inside her tightened like a blade sharpening. Then she heard a wounded radio operator being dragged into the infirmary. His weak voice cracked as he whispered a name, the name of the warlord responsible for the ambush. Alina froze. That name didn't belong to the present. It belonged to her past, to missions she had erased, to blood she had tried to wash off her hands. Her breath grew steady, colder. The memories she fought to bury surged back, training, survival, enemies, and the unit she once belonged to. But the base leadership moved too slowly, lost in procedures and paperwork. Minutes felt like years. Every ticking second pushed the SEAL team closer to torture, execution, or worse. And in the middle of that chaos, Alina felt a silent, primal shift inside her. The cook stepped back. The warrior stepped forward. Alina walked into the armory like a shadow sliding into a place it had never truly left. Soldiers standing guard barely looked at her at first. They were used to seeing her carry boxes of kitchen supplies through restricted halls. But today, there was no softness in her posture, no quiet hesitation in her steps. She moved with purpose, with an authority that didn't need permission. "Ma'am, this area is restricted," one guard said casually. Alina didn't stop when he reached out to block her. She reacted without thinking. A swift pivot, a precise grip, a controlled takedown so fast and clean, the guard hit the ground before anyone understood what happened. She didn't hurt him. She didn't panic. She simply moved like someone who had been doing this her entire life. Silence swallowed the room. her voice, when she finally spoke, was sharp, commanding, and cold. "I need suppressors, night optics, thermal map access, and a tactical route to Grid 7. The second guard blinked, stunned. She had just listed equipment and infiltration paths known only to elite operatives. Not cooks. Not support staff. Operators. The base commander arrived moments later, furious at the commotion, until he pulled up her classified file. Entire pages were blacked out. Only fragments remained. Special asset, survival unit, off-book operations, close quarters expert. 0 mission failures. Elena stood before him fully awake, her old self now impossible to hide. The calm kitchen worker was gone. The look in her eyes was unmistakable, focused, deadly, unshakable. With no time for politics, the commander made a decision. Arm her, now. Minutes later, Elena stepped out wearing tactical gear that fit her body like it remembered her. A rifle rested in her hands like an old friend. Everyone watching understood one thing: they had never truly known her. She wasn't the cook. She was a weapon returned to duty. Night fell over the jungle like a heavy curtain, swallowing sound and light. Most operatives relied on night vision or thermal scopes, but Elena used something deeper: instinct, sharpened by years of brutal training. She moved through the terrain with a silent precision that even the jungle seemed to respect. Dry leaves didn't crunch under her boots. Branches didn't snap. Even the wind felt like it parted for her. The enemy compound lay hidden behind layers of guards, motion sensors, and tripwires. Elena mapped the defenses with a single sweeping glance. Then she began her approach, low, controlled, invisible. One guard stepped aside for a smoke, and before the ember could glow, Elena was behind him, silencing him with a hold so quick that his cigarette fell without a sound. Inside, SEL Team Echo was shackled, bruised, and surrounded by militants preparing a camera for their execution broadcast. The team was exhausted but unbroken. Their captors mocked them, confident that no one could reach this far into hostile territory in time. They were wrong. Elena slipped through the shadows like a whisper. 2 guards fell without noticing each other drop. Another turned toward a sound. Elena's hand covered his mouth before he could breathe out. When the cell door opened for the next stage of the interrogation, the warlord froze. Elena stood there, eyes locked on him, memories of past battles igniting between them like sparks. His hand trembled on his weapon. He remembered her. The SEALs stared wide-eyed as she cut their restraints with swift, practiced movements. You're the cook," one whispered. "Later," she said, voice steady. "We get out first." Gunfire erupted outside as backup teams finally moved in. But Elena had already dismantled half the compound alone. Tonight, she wasn't a support worker. She was their savior. The escape turned into a chaotic storm of gunfire, exploding brush, and desperate shouts from enemy patrols. But through the chaos, Elena led the SEALs with a calmness that stunned them. She navigated the terrain as if she had memorized every route, every rock, every hidden path. Even bleeding from a scraped arm and breathing hard, her steps were precise. Her decisions razor-sharp. When enemy spotlights swept across the jungle, Elena was the one who signaled the team to freeze. When drones buzzed overhead, she guided them into thick undergrowth that muffled their heat signatures. Her awareness felt almost supernatural. She anticipated danger seconds before it appeared. At one point, the youngest SEAL stumbled. Before he could fall, Elena grabbed his vest and pulled him behind a fallen log, just as bullets tore through the space he had stood in. The SEAL stared at her in disbelief. She simply nodded, as if saving lives was as natural to her as breathing. After an exhausting, relentless trek, the evacuation ridge finally came into view. Helicopters thudded overhead, rotors slicing the night, spotlight beams searching for the team. As soon as the rescue crew spotted them, ropes dropped. Medics sprinted forward, But before the SEALs climbed aboard, they turned every one of them to look at Elena. She stood with her rifle lowered, chest rising and falling, sweat and dust streaked across her face. Not the cook they had known. Not the quiet woman who served their meals. A warrior. A ghost. A legend reborn. Back on base, the news spread before the helicopters even landed. By the time Elena stepped onto the tarmac, personnel lined the runway: soldiers, mechanics, medics, officers. Conversations died as she passed. People didn't move out of fear. They moved out of awe. The SEALs gave their report personally to the commander, and their words echoed through the room. She didn't rescue us. She commanded the rescue. She took down a compound alone. She saved us like she'd been doing this forever. The commander approached Elena with a quiet respect that wasn't forced, it was earned. "We misjudged you," he admitted. "The kitchen may have hidden you, but no more." But Elena didn't smile. She simply adjusted her gear, eyes steady. "I didn't choose to wake the warrior," she said softly. "Circumstances did." And with that, the base understood. Elena Ward wasn't returning to kitchen duty. She was returning to the life she had tried to bury, the life of a legend they desperately needed. The warrior had awakened, and this time, she wasn't going back to sleep.